Hello mate, how you doing? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well, friends. I really do hope that. There's a few things I want to talk to you today about regarding the Blues, Chelsea Football Club, and I guess some things that indirectly involved with Chelsea as well. Spoiler, I want to talk about both John Terry and Frank Lampard being potential managerial appointments for upcoming jobs. Very interesting indeed, but I also want to talk about Chelsea's current midfielders in Ross Barkley and Saul Ñíguez. Ooh, Chelsea have great midfielders, man. We do. We've got N'Golo Kante, we've got Jorginho, we've got Mateo Kovacic, and you know what? I'm going to put him in there. We've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, ladies and gentlemen. He's that good. He absolutely is that good. He joins the ranks of the elite in the midfield lineup. I was going to say the midfield Arsenal. I never really like saying Arsenal in terms of football because it just makes me feel of Arsenal. Makes me think of Arsenal. And no one wants to think of Arsenal, especially when they're climbing up the Premier League table and making all of us feel a little bit uncomfortable. Anyway, there's plenty to get into today. Lots and lots and lots. A little bit of housework early doors. I just want to urge you, my friends, to drop a like on the video. If you want to show some support on the channel, that's how you do it. You just click like. It takes but a second, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really quick. And you're all welcome to subscribe. If you're yet to subscribe, certainly don't subscribe again if you already has, because, you might unsubscribe. And heck, should I say, make sure that bell notifications icon is turned on, because a lot of people have been complaining, and yes, there's problems with YouTube at the moment, that they're not getting notified when when I'm uploading. Just make sure that button's pressed appropriately for all notifications. Right, let's get into it, and let's start off with midfielders. Because I heard on the Straight Out of Cobham podcast, that podcast done by The Athletic, it's very good, I can recommend it, them talking about if a bid came in for Barkley in January, do you take it? Now, perhaps the natural inclination for the vast majority of Chelsea fans would be like, yes. Now, I've had a peculiar relationship with Barkley, metaphorically, or not metaphorically, not literally. What I'm saying is, Barkley got sold to Chelsea for £15 million, 1-5, an incredible deal considering his notoriety as a sort of talented player. He was like perhaps this next best thing in midfield. Ran down his contract at Everton and we got him for an absolute steal. He became an England international, again, when he was playing for Chelsea. So already, when we signed Barkley, we knew we were immediately doubling his value. From the cost that he signed for, 15 million. He was a £30 million player immediately. Played for Chelsea, he's going to be utilised, and, Conte didn't really know much about him. Certainly Sarri used him a bit. It was always that Barkley for Kovacic substitution 60 minutes every single game. Whichever one starts, the other one comes on. He was utilised. He was very studious when Maurizio Sarri arrived. He studied his Napoli side at Cobham, told him, look mate, I've been studying hard. I know how your 4-3-3 works. Sarri was very impressed, utilised him. Frank Lampard liked him. He liked Ross Barkley, used him a little bit. And he went away on loan, and Thomas Tuchel was probably like, look mate, this guy had number 8. We've given it to Kovacic. We're just giving him number 18. We're trying to get him on loan. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. We're trying to recoup his value with a good loan, and then we're probably going to flog him. Couldn't loan him. Troublesome situation there, like Malang Sarr, like Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Certainly Ruben Loftus-Cheek's proving to be an excellent situation. Of course, I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to cite it again now. Apparently Tuchel took him aside and said, you're incredible, how have you not played more for Chelsea? Not knowing, perhaps, mitigating factors that why he hasn't played. Anyway, I'm digressing. Barkley. So, at this point, he's probably thinking, okay, well, this guy I'm not going to use. He's trained really, really hard, reportedly, at training, and Tuchel's been forced to recognise him and has utilised him. Now, he got his first Premier League start against Burnley, and apart from that wayward shot at the end and maybe a couple of moments, generally, he played pretty well as a lone 10 behind Hudson-Odoi and Kai Havertz. And prior to this first start, he's been utilised as an impact sub, and actually, every single time he's come on, he's looked pretty good. He's looked pretty good for Thomas Tuchel's side. And he's probably thinking, yeah, I can use this guy. maybe he's not quite at the Ruben Loftus-Cheek level in terms of affecting games, I think. Granted, it was interesting to see Barkley start over Ruben, but clearly Thomas Tuchel sees Barkley as closer to a front three player, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek more of a sort of double six, and in fact even deeper, plays as a lone pivot behind his double six sometimes, but with the freedom to break forward with the ball and dribble, like perhaps a centre-back would sometimes. Very, very interesting, this new sort of hybrid role for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think. So, it's very, very strange, because you pose yourself the question, if a bid comes in January for Barkley, does Tuchel want to sell him? Probably not. Because probably the more he sees him in training and the more he thinks about these thousands of competitions that we're in, and if you include the Club World Cup, if we're still even playing that, he's probably thinking, I could probably do with this guy knocking about, especially if we're going to be facing injuries and if there's a suspension. Midfield, such an important, I suppose attacking three in this instance. But he probably could trust him in the midfield as well. He's probably thinking, especially Ziyech misfiring, Pulisic seemingly, he's still in pain, Pulisic, even after that game recently. He's probably thinking, this is an attacker that trains hard, he's physical, he can deal with the speed and strength for the Premier League. I don't really want to see him going. Which leads me on to this next part of the midfielders talk, Saul Ñíguez. I think Saul isn't going to happen for him, because he was shook at the beginning of the season, and it was like, okay, you need him to let him settle into the game. You don't settle into the game later in the season with Chelsea. The competitions become tougher. You need... Look, I don't want to touch wood or whatever, superstitious stuff. I don't want to curse Saul Niguez to not come good, because he is a very talented footballer in there, and something may happen. But it looks now, with the emergence of Ruben Loftus-Cheek in the double six, and I know Saul Niguez can play a little bit further forward as well sometimes, and with the emergence of Ross Barkley, you're thinking, is there a clause in his loan to send him back in January? Is there something available there so you can send him back in January and we'll say, no, don't sell Ross, we'll keep him? Or does someone look at Ross Barkley and say, you know what, Thomas Tuchel, he's a really good coach, he fancies Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley is a good player. Let's put a £20 million bid on him. Someone puts a £20 million bid, despite what Thomas Tuchel thinks about perhaps wanting to keep him at the club. I think Chelsea, Chelsea like money, they like bargains, they like deals, they're like, good business moves. Certainly that would be, because you're still getting a decent amount of use out of Ross Barkley over, 2-3 managers, and you make a profit on him by selling him. Would he want to go? Would he want to, right now he might be thinking, I can muscle my way into this side. Absolutely incredible and mental in many ways. Guys, without being... don't make sweeping statements and leave your prejudices at the door as I pose this question to you. Can Ross Barkley be a really well utilised, asset in the squad moving forward under Tuchel? And would you sell him in January? And how do you feel about that in relation to Saul Niguez as well? It's a really, really interesting talking point. I wanted to give my thoughts on it, lay it out in front of you guys, and I'd really appreciate your responses down in the comment section, talking about how you feel regarding Saul, who, by the way, is a really talented player, and Ross Barkley, who, by the way, is a talented player, and at one point of time showed an immense amount of promise. And as well, before we move on, that link up between Ross Barkley and Romelu Lukaku at Everton. That was Lukaku's probably, because that Inter was his biggest explosion, maybe. But his ascension to top tier football, he was combining with Ross Barkley at Everton, and there was a time when that looked like it could be really, really good. Just saying, Romelu Lukaku comes back in the side, maybe rekindling that old relationship, link up with Ross the Boss Barkley, the Diamond Barkley. Could happen. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below. So let's talk about JT and Lamps. John Terry, of course, now on Twitter, causing havoc all over the gaff. Go seek him out on Twitter. It's very, very funny indeed. His handle is John226 something Terry. You'll find him. He's out there. He's causing trouble. John Terry is notably completed every qualification available for coaching, the highest level, I believe. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I remember retweeting it on social media saying, with a great deal of pride, that he's gone and done every single thing and he sort of excelled it in levels. Now, I think that's notable because, of course, Frank Lampard, I don't think did that. I think he's just done, if you said Lampard, JT, who's the most intelligent, you say Frank Lampard because he's just very erudite and he's meant to have a really high IQ and all that kind of stuff. So you think Lampard, but in terms of qualifications, John Terry's done it all, done all the sort of graft and badges, and I think Lampard's just got maybe the basic badges, but obviously the experience of managing 2 football clubs in the Championship and Chelsea is invaluable experience as a coach, and in that time away to reflect as well. So of course Lampard's still ahead, but I just think it's really important to talk about those qualifications that John Terry's done. So 2 jobs have become available: Aston Villa and Norwich. Lampard, maybe at time of recording, certainly recently, was favourite for the Norwich City job. Now, let's talk about that first. I would have loved for him to have taken the Crystal Palace job. I think I've read it, either he turned it down or something happened. I don't know if he was offered it, but maybe he already turned it down. That's what I personally would have loved for him to take. Conor Gallagher on loan, play a bit more attacking football, quite an established Premier League club that, won't be favourites to go down, and they will be, the task is to revitalise and take risks. Like Vieira's doing very well, by the way, and I'm very pleased for Patrick Vieira. He seems like a nice guy, and he's killing it, so fair play to him. From a selfish Chelsea fan's perspective who wants to watch Frank Lampard back in management, I would have really liked him to take the Palace job. On reflection, that not being available, I was thinking, he's not going to... I know journalists like Matt Law were talking about Southampton and stuff. I'm not sure he'd get that job. He's very young still, and his stock can go back up. And by the way, he lost his 3 best players at Derby. They were selling all their players because they were going into administration. He got them to a playoff final, revitalised how they played, and brought the average age down a lot. He did a good job at Derby. If you look at the body of work closely, people refuse to accept that, but I don't know when their previous playoff final was before that. It certainly wasn't the season before. Maybe it was a while before. But he got them to a playoff final. He changed the way they played, doing all of that while they lost their 3 best players, including Matej Vydra, who at the time was the Championship top goal scorer. So he did well at Derby. We all know the story at Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea were favourites for 6th at the bookies because they had Frank Lampard and because they lost Eden Hazard and because they had a transfer ban. He finished top 4 and got him to a cup final. Did he get to a cup final against Arsenal? Yeah, he did. So cup final and top 4 against all odds, was nominated for manager of the season. The following season it fell apart and it needed a change, and we know what happened with Tuchel. He was actually top of the league in December, Chelsea, and sacked in January. So it showed you things happen quickly and Chelsea don't muck about. And they did the right thing to change quickly. But we were top of the league in December. Certainly late November. So I think December as well. Excuse me. That shows you what he can do. Yes, he was dysfunctional in many ways. And yes, he has so much to learn as a young coach. That's all really fine. I understand that well and good. But his body of work in management is good. Despite that, I think he does need to go in a sort of higher profile than Derby. Obviously, Derby are in great trouble now, but sort of higher profile than Derby was, but much, much lower profile than a top 4 team. Palace maybe would have been good. Norwich. So Norwich will go down, almost certainly. Almost certainly. I think, in a way, that's quite a good opportunity for him, because he will be expected to get relegated, I think. Unless he performs a miracle, but I just don't think it's possible. And then if he gets them promoted with a good, strong Championship team that know how to get promoted, and then stays in the Premier League, does what Daniel Farke could not. I think long-term planning, that was really, really good, and I think that could suit him. Let me know what you think about the Frank Lampard links to Norwich. I'm not sure there's anything in it, or even if he'd take it. Let me know, though. Comment down below. I'm interested in that. When it comes to JT, people are saying Villa job. I don't think he'll get that. It's far too big a job for his first job. And obviously he was the assistant coach. I'd be very, very shocked if he somehow got that job. I think JT, I think he was learning Portuguese. I'd love him to go to like Liga NOS and get like a mid-table Portuguese team in management. That would be great. Amazing experience as well over on the continent. That's what I'd personally like. I'd like Frank Lampard to go manage Lyon or something. I think that would be ruddy wicked. Learn French, different league, come back, wham, bam! Guys, let me know what you think for both John Terry and Frank Lampard. I've spoken for a long time. I just wanted to talk about these subjects because it's just something I wanted to talk about, and I thought I'd enjoy doing it in the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too. And if you have, you can let me know that by dropping a like on the video, sharing the video with your friends. Means a lot. You're all welcome to subscribe, of course, and if you do choose to subscribe, hit that bell notifications icon. And that's it from me, my friends. So, enjoy the football, and I will see you later.